When fighting for your rights makes you a target. This is lesson 5 of 5. Crime victims are told that we have rights. But what happens when you finally learn those rights? Begin asking questions, and the people in power start treating you like a problem. Hello, I'm Sarah, Kenley's mom, aka Mama Bear. I'm not an attorney, I'm a victim. In the previous lessons, I explained what the victim's rights person, judge, and the prosecutor are supposed to do. Now this lesson is about what happened to me when I learned about my victim's rights and began trying to exercise them. But in my case, it felt as though knowing those rights and trying to use them was the last thing that some people in the court system wanted. No one sat down and clearly explained my rights to me. I had to find them on my own. And when I began asking questions, I received information that I found misleading. The more I asked, the more treatment towards me changed. Instead of being respected as the mother of the victim, I experienced treatment that I considered intimidating, humiliating, and harassing. I was even called senile. Now, I may be a senior citizen, but I am not senile. I was a grieving mother who had begun learning how the system worked. I was asking questions, I was requesting information, and I was trying to make sure my only son was not a case number to be filed away. Knowing my rights did not cause the problem. Trying to make the system honor those rights exposed the problem. I want to make something very clear. I'm not blaming every person in the DA's office who worked on Kenley's case. The assistant district attorneys, the ADAs, were not the people I blame for what happened to me. In fact, assistant district attorneys later stepped in and protected Kenley's case. 2 of them apologized to me for the way I had been treated. I also received apologies from marshals and others who became involved. From their reactions, I believed that some of those people did not want to be placed in the position they were placed in. In fact, one retired the next week and another one was reassigned. My concerns are about the way I was treated by the elected prosecutor and judge, and about what happened when I tried to exercise my rights as Kenley's mother. On Monday, December 13th, 2021 at 5:56 a.m., this email was sent to the elected prosecutor, the assistant district attorney, and 2 victims' rights representatives, notifying them that we would be attending and requesting information about the hearing. Not one of the 4 recipients responded. This was not simply an example. What happened on Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. bond hearing was a deeply traumatic event that continues to affect me to this day. After we arrived at the courthouse, all 4 walked down the hallway. 3 of them stopped and spoke to me, asked why I was not in the safe room, and then walked into the courtroom. Yet not one escorted us into the courtroom or took me to a safe waiting area. And even though they knew Dennis and his mother were walking directly behind them, that I would be face to face with the man and his mother who killed my child, I was left unprotected. But being left near Dennis and his mother was not the worst thing that happened that day. What happened next did not silence me. It shocked and traumatized me. I could not understand why I, the mother of a victim, was being surrounded by marshals. I had 3 advocates with me, whom I had specifically asked to accompany me because I was already overwhelmed and traumatized by everything that had just happened. They also had 4 marshals around them. The marshals left them shortly after I was taken to the back office. Oh, by the way, the judge turned off his microphone and placed his head on the bench to talk to Dennis and not me. To this day, I cannot understand why 6 marshals were considered necessary for 1 grieving senior citizen. And why would the judge not want me to hear what he had to say? I had not threatened anyone. I had not become violent. I had not disrupted the hearing. I was a traumatized mother asking questions about the case involving the death of her only child. But that was just the beginning. I was surrounded and treated as though I were dangerous, as though the elected prosecutor needed 6 marshals to protect him from me, a senior citizen. Their response was not only completely disproportionate, it was humiliating, intimidating, and absurd. That display of force said more about the situation than anything I could ever say. I was the victim's mother. I was not a threat. I was told that my advocates could not go with me because they were not my husband or another child. But I was a military widow, and Kenley was my only child. Yet he had at least 10 people in the room, including his entire staff. Like I said, I was surrounded and forced to go with them. Instead, the same 2 victims' rights representatives who early walked past me while I stood outside the courtroom were assigned to represent me. One retired the next week. The other one was reassigned to another position. These were the same people who had known I was coming, had spoken to me in the hallway, and had left me standing there while Dennis and his mother were directly behind me. I was not silenced that day, but I was deeply shocked and traumatized that a victim was treated inside a courtroom. In fact, I was treated for PTSD. I would shake every time I heard his voice. I was directed down the courthouse hallway toward the elected prosecutor's office, along with the members of his staff and other people who attended the hearing. I felt trapped, outnumbered, and I felt intimidated. The prosecutor appeared extremely angry with me, and he said he could not trust me. From my perspective, what happened did not feel spontaneous. It felt as though it had been organized in advance. I cannot tell you what may have been discussed when I was not present. Yet that day, I felt as though I was being treated like the criminal. That was December 21st, 2021, after the bond hearing, that I was surrounded by marshals and directed down the hallway toward the elected prosecutor, his staff, and others who had attended the hearing. I felt trapped, outnumbered, and intimidated. The experience affected me so deeply that I later received treatment for PTSD connected to what happened that day. But I was not alone. There were witnesses. One of those witnesses recorded a video describing what she personally saw what happened to me.
Everything that she had been through with the court system down in Lubbock, Texas was a nightmare. From day one, it was a nightmare. There are 254 counties in the state of Texas, okay? And they all do things differently. They run things their own way. The prosecuting attorney that she was involved with down there was horrendous. I mean, he was just, well, there's a lot of words you can use, but he was horrible, and he treated her horribly. He treated her like she was woohoo, if you want to call it. Senile. That was the word that what's-her-name used. I mean, that's how they treated her, and it wasn't as a victim, okay? And so they had a victim advocate in their office, and they also had a MAD victim's advocate, so that was her title. But she called me, and called me back because I left the message for her, and she called me back, and I was at work as an HR professional, and she started screaming at me and telling me, who the heck told you that I was going to be down at that event? You know, they have no right to. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. He goes, and that's when she told me that, you know, I don't know why you're listening to Sarah. I said, well, we found out that you're supposed to be down there, and, you know, Sarah's going to be there. Well, I don't know why you're listening to Sarah, because she's senile. Oh my gosh. And I said, do you know who you're talking to? For number one, I am a victim's advocate for MAD. Have you ever lost anybody? Have you ever lost? No, I never have. And I said, you have no idea. You have no idea the grief that she is going through, and you are going to call her senile? I mean, I was livid over this. Okay, so I've got a bad taste in my mouth to begin with. So we get down to this court hearing, and number one, you're supposed to have, when you go down in any place, you're supposed to have a special room that you take your victims to, so they don't have to have any interaction, and you don't want them interaction. You don't know what the other person's going to do from the family. They didn't do that. They left us standing in the hallway where here they are milling about here, you know. Anyway, but let me go back up here, because this is the meeting that we had, you know, with this prosecuting attorney. He would not allow us, first of all, we get met into this room. He's not going to allow us. He's going to take Sarah back to the room because he needs to talk to her, have a talk with her. And so Christine and I were there, along with David, and Christine said, well, we're her advocates. Can we go back with her? No, we have advocates here. She doesn't need you. And I said to the one marshal, I said, they got 15 minutes. Because if she's not out in 15 minutes, we're going in. Do you understand me? And he goes, well, ma'am, no, do you understand me? Okay. Well, when she came out of that room, I will never forget the look on her face. It was like a frightened little kid that had been browbeaten. I mean, it was horrible. And, then we had the meeting with them afterwards, and this mad person is in there, and she's standing up in the back, and I'm proud of it. I sat there just like this with a smile across my face and looking at her. I didn't take my eyes off of her. She ended up leaving the room.
She's crying.
She left in tears and said, "You're mean, Debbie. You have no business treating this woman this way. You called her senile, and you're supposed to be her advocate? This is deplorable. That's not right. You don't treat people like that." And what they did to her, I'm not kidding you. But by the time she finally came out, we were left with one marshal. I guess they finally realized that we weren't, this big threat. And I know how it feels. And they should never have put her in that position. She never should have been put in that position to where she had to sit there in a room where they're like standing above her, and berating her and telling her that, she doesn't need a victim. She doesn't need any other advocates. And so when we were talking to them afterwards, when they took us into this room and allowed Christine and David and I to be in this room, they brought her out. And Christine said, she's in Texas. She's from she's living in Texas now. And she's said, is there a statute that says that she can't have her own advocate? That she has to have your advocate? And he, was kind of stuttering. And she goes, well, I need an answer on that because that's something I need to work on if that's the case. Well, no, it's just that's how we do it here. So like I said, every county in that state does it their own way. I'm not saying it's a bad state because it's not, but it, unfortunately, for more than one reason, obviously, she had to deal with these people and had no choice.
That is only a brief part of her statement. This incident and the other incidents are available in my playlist. I am not repeating every detail in this lesson because I have already documented those events in separate videos. Those videos explain the dates, what happened, who was present, and what I personally saw and heard, and what my witness personally observed. Now, I want to be fair about who was responsible. Again, I want to be accurate. The assistant district attorneys were not the people I blame for what happened. They later protected Kenley's case. They apologized to me. Marshals and others who became involved also apologized. Some of them appeared uncomfortable, and I believe they did not want to be part of what was happening. But I was still the person who had to endure it. I was still the grieving mother who was left unprotected. I was still placed near the man who killed my only child. I was still surrounded by marshals, and I was still the person who had to live with the emotional consequences afterward. An apology mattered to me, but an apology could not erase what happened. This experience taught me something every victim needs to understand. An email is not a safety plan. It does not mean someone will keep you separate from the defendant and the defendant's family. It does not mean someone will protect you if a person in authority becomes angry with you. Ask about a safe room for victims. Victims need to understand that rights written on paper like this do not always enforce themselves. A right may require you to register and submit a request by a deadline. But asking questions does not make you difficult or disrespectful. Asking for safety does not make you demanding. It's reality. That is how Marcy's Law became a law. She is dead because no one protected her. And trying to exercise a right does not make you the criminal. It makes you a mama bear. When a right is protected by law, you should not be punished, intimidated, or humiliated. Victims are often expected to learn all this while they are shocked, grieving, and trying to survive the worst times of their lives. Meanwhile, the defendant has an attorney explaining the process from arrest through trial, sentence, and parole. That is why I created this channel. A refusal to put important information in writing does not automatically prove wrongdoing, but it should tell you that you needed to document the situation carefully and protect yourself. What happens inside a courthouse can cause real trauma. Why? Because you may suddenly realize that the defendant has an attorney protecting and explaining every one of his rights while you, the victim, are grieving, confused, and expected to learn the entire system on your own. Your loved one can begin to feel like nothing more than a case number that everyone wants resolved, finalized, and removed from the crowded desk as quickly as possible. But your loved one was not a case number. Their life mattered, and you should not have to disappear to make the system's job easier. Keep asking, keep records, protect yourself, and never let them make you believe that your voice does not matter. Thank you.